Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. Now, before we get into it, I'd just like to inform you about a new website selling quality current and retro Spurs jerseys, okjersey.com. They sell all current and retro Tottenham Hotspur shirts in all sizes. They sell the current fan and player versions, as well as the 80s and 90s retro shirts, including my very favourite, the 1991 FA Cup final shirt. You can order very easily from okjersey.com, and if you use the code Chris, you will receive an 8% discount off your final order. You can also use the QR code on the top left of your screen. And by the way, they also have some training wear here and the 25-26 colour special edition jersey. Welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is well, and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Tottenham Transfer News Show. My name is Chris Cowlin, and this evening I'll be joined by sports journalist Josh Hughes and, of course, Tottenham Hotspur fan. Now, we'll be covering all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. We're live on YouTube, live on X and Facebook. Please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan, because we are on day 14 of the January transfer window, and we finally have a signing through the door. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, press the like button, comment below, and turn on that notification bell so YouTube informs you every single time we go live and upload a video. And there's a lot of content so far, and there is 19 days to go until the end of the window, or just under 19 days now. Of course, it closes on the 2nd of Feb at 7 p.m. Josh, evening, how are you?
Buzzing, really good. Look, it's been miserable, hasn't it, recently? It's been utterly depressing. But I think I'm actually looking forward to being on here tonight with a smile on my face, because I think at this moment in time, when things are as bad as they have been on the pitch, it's worth celebrating when things do go well. And I think Conor Gallagher, we spoke about him recently the last time I was on. We both agreed we thought he'd be a massive upgrade to our team. We'd both love to see him at the club. Weren't sure if it was going to be a deal that would be possible, but here we are, how quickly things change. I think it says a lot that Aston Villa were in for him, of course, who beat us in the FA Cup. And this is a player that, I think is going to add a lot. He's going to add hard work. He's going to add leadership qualities. He's good on the ball. He gets stuck in. Now, I've already seen comments saying he's had an near immaculate injury record, so he's no doubt doomed at Spurs. But look, at the moment, he's not injured, and looking forward to seeing him against West Ham. And he's going to wear the number 22 shirt, which is one of my favourite numbers. And of course, when I think of the number 22 shirt, it might sound weird, but I always think of Nasser Chadli, who was a very solid part of our squad. He wasn't necessarily viewed as the best player in the squad, but he contributed a lot in those really good years under Pochettino. So let's hope that our new number 22 is going to contribute just as much, if not even more. So yeah, absolutely buzzing with that. And long may it continue. But that's, one down, another to come. And hopefully, if my maths is correct, £34 million and 13 million for Sousa. That would leave us with just over £100 million of this 150 million that we supposedly have to play with this January. And another bit of news coming in just over the last couple of days as well. We're expecting all 20 Premier League clubs to pass the PSR test. So every single club compliant with PSR for the first time in a while. Although Spurs have made successive losses, we're expecting Spurs to make, I think, another loss again this year. However, that being said, we're not in trouble for PSR this window for sure, which means the money's there. Let's go out and spend it.
Josh, I love it when you're in this mood, because I only asked how you was, and then you got into it. You told us all the information. You're talking about transfers. You're getting straight into it. I love it. But like you said, a couple of days ago, I recorded one of the Tottenham news videos on this channel, and I was pretty flat, I must admit. And the next day, of course, we were in for Conor Gallagher. As you've mentioned, it looked like Aston Villa were going to get the deal done. Tottenham Hotspur went in and got this deal done, and the Athletic have reported today that Johan Langer was behind that, acting quickly on this deal. Now, Sky Sports have stated that Tottenham have completed the signing of England midfielder Conor Gallagher from Atletico Madrid for a fee of £34 million. And as you rightly said, he will wear the number 22 shirt. Other reports are stating around £34.67 million. So anywhere between £34-35 million. He is a Tottenham Hotspur player. Now, the official statement came out earlier today. Tottenham Hotspur are delighted to announce the signing of Conor Gallagher from Atletico Madrid, subject to international clearance. The 25-year-old England international has signed a long-term contract with the club. And in this statement, Josh, it says a passionate, versatile and energetic midfielder. Now, before we hear a first interview with Conor Gallagher, tell us what he's going to bring to Spurs. How excited are you by this signing?
Energy, absolute energy. And this is someone that gets stuck in. And I loved it when he went on loan at Palace. I thought he was really good. There's a reason why Pochettino played him 51 out of 52 games while he was Chelsea manager. This is a guy that is obviously great for, homegrown quota. This is also a player that wants a chance at the World Cup. Let's not forget, he was at Chelsea and he's gone to Atletico Madrid. He played more than you would have thought he might have played. And Simeone had a lot of very good things to say about him too. But right now, there are places up for grabs with England. I think if you were looking at that squad right now under Thomas Tuchel, now I know he's not been involved recently in the England squad. However, all it takes is a good run of form. Cole Palmer, we thought was going to be nailed on for the England squad, and he's injured again. He's got this recurring groin injury. Bukayo Saka, unless he scored in the last hour, he was on 4 goals in his last 20 appearances. Hardly the prolific winger that we all thought he might be, even though he's playing very well. And in that midfield position, there's Eberechi Eze, there's Elliot Anderson, there's Adam Wharton. And why not Conor Gallagher be involved in that mix? So I think right now we've seen Thomas Tuchel's not afraid to call up players that are playing well. And Conor Gallagher will have the confidence and certainly has the ability to be in that conversation. So let's hope he gets off to a quick start against West Ham. What a way to kind of adhere yourself to the Spurs fans than with a really solid performance against a team we don't like very much. And I think also this is a player that has, with that work ethic, I think we shouldn't underestimate just how important that is, because you can say a lot of players have good work ethic. Kulusevski's a great example, but when Kulusevski's in that Tottenham team, we are a better side, and he raises levels. And Conor Gallagher, I expect to do that. And look, I'm incredibly excited about this signing. We both were in agreement that we wanted him. It's definitely an upgrade on what we've got. But the other thing I think worth bearing in mind is now I think, I've seen certain reports, certain journalists coming out and saying, oh, I'm not sure it really makes sense for Spurs for what they need in midfield. But actually, the way I view it is he can not only, play as an 8, but he can do the dirty work. And he's also able to play a bit more advanced. Spurs like having players that can kind of do a bit of everything. But if it was down to me, I think the way I'd start against West Ham, I'd be looking forward to seeing him next to Palhinha and freeing up, hopefully, Xavi Simons in the 10. I thought Xavi Simons was a real bright spark against Villa, one of the few real positives of that game. And to have a player like Gallagher really, really doing the running, working hard, and then Palhinha sweeping up, rather than having him and, Palhinha and Bentancur kind of too negative, if you will. I think that's just going to give us a little bit more balance and a little bit more, because also in many ways, I don't want to compare him to James Maddison, but I think there are some similar qualities there. Certainly not the set pieces, but in terms of the on the ball qualities. So I think that to have someone in there that's going to give us a bit more of I think the best way to describe it is sort of the cog that makes everything work. To really tie up that defensive side to the attacking side. Hopefully it's going to give us a lot more. We're looking at a proper box-to-box midfielder here, someone that's going to provide an attacking option as well as defensive cover, where our other midfielders might be a bit more limited. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. I've not heard everything he's had to say just yet. But look, I'm really excited by the signing. I think he's going to hopefully, raise those levels in that team. And it's exactly these types of players that I think all of us Spurs fans want. It's players with proven ability, quality. I mean, he's only, 25?
25, yeah.
Yeah, great age to be joining the club, 5.5-year deal. We're getting him before his peak. He will get better. So for me, the other bonus is, and I'm still very much the same on Thomas Frank. I don't think Thomas Frank is the man to lead a football club, but a certain man that I want to see back at the club for next season was a massive fan of his at Chelsea. So for me, this is a win-win situation.
You mentioned Chelsea there, Josh. Of course, a former Chelsea midfielder and captain under Mauricio Pochettino as well, as you also mentioned. 10 goals in 95 competitive appearances for Chelsea in his career. He's also had loan spells at Charlton, Swansea, West Brom, and a very impressive spell, I might add, at Crystal Palace. In the last 1.5 seasons, he's been in La Liga with Atletico Madrid. And you rightly mentioned there, and I saw this stat just before we went live, 268 club games, 0 games missed, through injury. There's some stats here as well. The last season he played in the Premier League for Chelsea, of course, he was captain. Goal involvement, 12, and he ranked 47th in the Premier League for this one. Possession won in final third, 39th. 39. He was second. Kilometres covered, 407.2, ranked 4th in the Premier League. Duels won, 212, ranked 9th. And final third passes completed, 546, ranking in 11th spot. Now, also I've seen a number of stats, compared to his Chelsea teammates in his last season at Stamford Bridge. His stats are extremely impressive. What do you say to the fans who are not excited about this signing? Because, what difference is he going to make to this Tottenham Hotspur team? Because this is definitely an upgrade, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, look, you're never going to please everybody. And, in every set of, in every fan base, there's going to be people that think that we can sign Mbappe, quite frankly. So that's never going to happen. We have to be realistic with where we're at. We're 14th in the Premier League. We are a mid-table club as it stands. We finished 17th last season. That's, of course, not where we should be. But, this is an upgrade on what we've got. And all we can ask for, really, as fans right now, is that the money gets spent that we have. And we're bringing in players who are going to be an upgrade. And we should be looking to upgrade on every single player in our starting 11 if we want to be a top side. That's what the biggest clubs do.
Yeah.
And whether Conor Gallagher is perfect or not remains to be seen. But what he will be is an upgrade on what we currently have. And I certainly think he's an upgrade on Bentancur. And I think with the likes of Bergvall and Sarr still quite young, to have someone that's got that Premier League experience in there, but still has age on his side, you've seen the running stats alone, just how good they are.
Yeah.
The other thing that I look at with intrigue is the fact that season at Chelsea, Chelsea weren't in a good place. Chelsea really weren't in a good place. And they ended up finishing the season really strongly under Pochettino and getting into Europe. But initially, they were sat, 10th, 11th, 12th. They've been, really struggling. They were struggling to win games at home. They were struggling to win games on the road. They were, really in a bad way. But Gallagher turned up when things were tough, and he gave a very, very consistent and high level of performance week in, week out in a very poor Chelsea team at the time. So this is not going to be a situation that Conor Gallagher is, alien to. This isn't going to be like drafting someone from, a club that wins all the time, and then suddenly he can't bear the thought, we're a club that's struggling, doesn't know what to do, starts sulking. This is a player that gets on with it. He's at Crystal Palace, mid-table club. So, and did very well there, well enough to the point where Chelsea wanted him to stay and get first team minutes. So I look at it from the perspective of here's a hungry player who will back himself to get into not Gareth Southgate, bloody hell, Thomas Tuchel's England squad for the World Cup, because places are up for grabs. Is a player that has experience playing in the mid-table and knowing what it's like when things get tough. And also he led by example in that Chelsea team when things were struggling. and then they ended up finishing in a European spot. So surely, if he has that same level of attitude and character at Spurs, hopefully that can be a catalyst towards us finishing the season a lot stronger than we started it. And hopefully we can creep our way back into contention for Europe as well, because it's still so tight.
You mentioned that word there, hunger. That's exactly the word I was going to use. You can tell how hungry he is for success, and he is absolutely delighted to be at Spurs, which is great to see and hear. Thomas Frank, on the signing of Conor Gallagher, he says Conor is a top midfielder. He is still young, so he has plenty of room for improvement, but he also has huge experience across the Premier League, La Liga, and with the England national team. Frank then went on to say Conor has a captain team, so he will bring leadership, maturity, character, and personality to our dressing room, while his running power, pressing ability, and eye for goal will strengthen us in a key area of the pitch. I'm excited about working with him every day, and I know the fans will love what he will bring to the team. I completely agree with every single word that Thomas Frank has said there, Josh. Before we go any further, let's hear from our new signing, Conor Gallagher.
It means so much. I really wanted it, and I wanted to be a Spurs player. And thankfully Tottenham felt the same, and it was very easy in the end, and it happened very fast. And yeah, I'm ready to get on the pitch now. I feel like I've got great experience now, and I'm really excited to basically take this next step in my career. And I'm just so excited to push on and be part of this amazing club, and hopefully create some special memories and moments together. So I'm just excited to show the fans what I can do. I like to see myself as a bit of an all-rounder, you can say. I try to be as effective as I can on the pitch, so I try to run as hard as I can. I try to make as many tackles as I can. I try to win as many duels as I can, make the box, try and score, try and assist. Basically, whatever role or position or system, then I will be willing to do my best. We had a great chat. The culture he's trying to build at the club, I fit that culture perfectly. He's explaining how great the squad is and how great the players are, how we can obviously improve, but we're not far away. We have great players, and we just need to keep working together as a squad and as players. And he felt like I was a great fit to help improve that. I'm just so hungry now. Obviously a year and a half out of the Premier League, and now I'm back at this amazing club, and I'm so hungry to do well for the club, and for the club to have success and to grow. And I want to play a big part of that. I'm going to do everything I can and work as hard as possible to do that. And yeah, hopefully I can be a great player for Spurs. I don't want to waste any time. Obviously we've got a game coming up in a few days, and I'm hoping to be part of it. I'm fit and raring to go, and yeah, I'm ready to work as hard as I can and do whatever role I'm needed to do. I'm so happy and so excited to be here. I know how massive the club is and how great the fans are and everything else to do with the club, and I'm just really happy to be part of it.
Josh, I would expect Conor Gallagher to walk straight into this team on Saturday and start the game against West Ham. How much of a boost do you think it's going to give the fans inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday? Because it's very fair to say, 2025 was a very, very poor year for us, losing all of those games. How many times on the podcast have we spoken about the fans booing, particularly this season under Thomas Frank? Of course, it was like that under Ange Postecoglou for some games as well. Also, what I wanted to ask is the physicality of this player. I'm very excited about, and that is a word that Thomas Frank uses a lot. Of course, we know he can be a very aggressive player, and how important is it for a player in this position to be good in both areas, defensively and offensively? And what do you think he learnt during his time in La Liga?
Well, there's playing in La Liga and there's playing under Diego Simeone. So that is in itself. I don't like to swear on the podcast too much, but the word I would use is a word you use to describe me a lot, Chris. Shithouse. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting him to bring a bit of that to the team. And look, before we go into that, I think it's worth commenting on what he's had to say there. The things that strike me is humble,
Yep.
elite mentality. You know, the fact that he says, and we've heard a lot of rumours, a lot of murmurs in the press, you know, about players being unhappy with the system. Are they happy with Frank? Are they not? Has he lost the dressing room? Has he not? He said, no matter what the system, no matter where he wants to play, where Frank wants to play him, you know, he will give everything. That's a great mentality to have. And this is a player, obviously, with leadership qualities.
Yeah.
Someone that can lead by example. Atletico Madrid is a top team. He's used to playing at Chelsea, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Atletico Madrid, again, one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's used to that pressure, and he performs under that pressure. So I'm absolutely thrilled with the signing. I'm really excited to see what he does against West Ham. I completely agree. I think he does walk straight into the starting 11. But more than anything, he's like a terrier. He's just going to yap in that midfield, and he's going to try and do everything, scrap for the ball, fight every duel, you know, and do everything possible because he's an absolute workhorse. And having that kind of mentality and that kind of attitude on the pitch, I think leads by example. And that's something I think a lot of players can learn from. I also like the prospects that we spoke about. You know, I'd like to see Palhinha, him and Xavi Simons, but I'd also love to see him play alongside Bergvall as well. I think Bergvall has a very similar work rate, and I'd love to see that. And then, you know, when Kulusevski's back fit, whenever that may be, again, it's great to have those options. It's a massive upgrade on Bissouma, who has been completely annexed from the squad, and I expect us to probably end up ripping up his contract, or just he'll be out of the team and he'll be gone in the summer, if not in January. So that's immediately an upgrade. And then we've got Pape Sarr, who's just got to the final of AFCON with Senegal. He's going to come back. He's another midfielder that works incredibly hard. And I think that's all we can ask for, really, from our midfielders, is that they work really, really hard, because there's a lot of ground they've got to cover up. And, you know, at the moment, that has been our biggest problem in a team, is that midfield, the lack of balance in that midfield, our inability to turn defensive actions into attack, poor transitions. And I think Gallagher, who's got a good range of passing, is comfortable on both feet, works hard. I think, you know, he's going to give us a little bit more of that technical quality that perhaps, you know, someone like Palhinha doesn't possess on the ball. So, yeah, really excited to see. And this is a great time to be playing West Ham. And I think a signing like that, who showed that sort of character in the press, of course, you know, he can talk a good game. Let's see what he does on the pitch. But at the same time, that being said, I have no doubt he's going to have a very good debut for Spurs. And, you know, if he plays and he starts and he has a good game and we win the game, I think, you know, some of that mood does change at the club. Now, it always seems to be the case that when there's a change for Tottenham protest, we seem to either win a game of football or we sign a player. So if that was something that managed to get this deal over the line, credit to those guys organising the protest. But look, it's a great start. Sousa's going to be an exciting signing too, but we've still got a lot of money to spend, and let's not stop now. This is the Tottenham thing to do: is we sign a player that we're excited about. We might sign another kid that looks exciting for the future, and then we don't spend the remaining money that we can spend. Let's not stop now. There's lots of players we need to still be looking to try and bring in. We need a lot more quality in that forward line. We don't know what's going to happen with Radu Dragushin as well. Linked with Roma, that move seems to have stalled. Napoli are interested as well. Conte seems to want to work with him. So, look, let's see what happens, but we've got to go and buy more players of quality around them. That really will change the mindset of fans. That really will change the mood around the club. Is, okay, well, we've got Gallagher and that's great. If we can sign 2 more top quality players this window in positions that we need, certainly a left winger / forward and possibly another centre back, depending on what happens elsewhere, or maybe even 2 forward players, you know, at that point, I think definitely we can be feeling a lot more confident going into the back end of the season. Of course, Gallagher won't be able to play like Solanke in the last 2 Champions League group games against Frankfurt and Dortmund. However, if we can get through to the knockout stages, that's going to be a huge bonus for us as well. And I'm also kind of thinking a little bit about the squad, and I would say 2 forward players would definitely be my priority over a centre back if that was the case, because I think now that we have Sousa coming in, that might just free up Ben Davis to be able to play left centre half as backup, with Danso backup for Romero if Radu does go. And then obviously we've got Vuskovic to come back in the summer. And then Sousa can be that left back cover for Udogie and allow Spence to compete with Porro as well at right back.
Josh, just to make it perfectly clear, although you and I are very positive about this signing of Conor Gallagher and what you just said there, and last week, particularly after Romero's comments after the defeat away at Bournemouth, and the Trust also put a statement out stating that they're worried about the lack of ambition at the football club. Although we are, pleased about this signing, and it is an improvement in what Tottenham have at the moment. You're absolutely spot on. We both feel, and I feel like a lot of Spurs fans feel at the moment, this is a good start, but it must continue. We must add real quality and depth into this squad. Otherwise, we are going to continue to struggle, because we've been here so many times before in transfer windows, particularly this one. I know sometimes a January window is very difficult, but in the summer transfer window, you'd hope and think and expect almost that we need real quality additions into this squad, no matter who the manager is, whether it's Thomas Frank or somebody else. We need real quality additions in. So I suppose my message is, and to you to clarify again on how we both feel, it must continue. It has to continue.
Absolutely. And there's 2 other things worth mentioning here, actually, which is, Aston Villa had agreed a loan with a fee of 30 million euros. And we're paying 40 million euros, which I think technically counts as 34.63 million pounds, if we want to be really specific with it. So that's where that 34.6 comes from. Some fans are saying, oh, this is a panic. But actually, is it not nice to see Spurs going out and actually paying a little bit more just to get the deal done?
I don't agree with that. I don't think it's a panic buy, because we clearly wanted him under Ange Postecoglou.
Absolutely.
And I think it was The Athletic that reported, stating that Ange spoke to his representatives at least 8 times to try and get this deal over the line. And The Athletic also reported that Daniel Levy was the one that didn't want to get this deal over the line. So, this is a player that Ange wanted. And I know a lot of people don't like that term of club signings, but I feel like, in 2025, 2026, what we're in now, that's the way that a lot of football clubs work. It is the modern day game, and they're not just for one manager, because they always think about the future. So a lot of signings are club signings. Like you mentioned earlier, he's only 25. Like Thomas Frank said, he's got a lot to offer, but he's also got a lot to learn. He can develop. He's only 25, but I think this is a really good profile, by the way, because Spurs are often criticised by signing 19-year-olds or youngsters, and then they suddenly go out on loan. And we'll talk about Aleko Veliz in a minute, because it looks like he's going to be sold. So players like that, whereas you bring in a 25-year-old with vast experience, like Thomas Frank has said, and like we've said, he's played in La Liga, he's played in the Premier League, he's played for multiple clubs, he's got England experience as well. This is a really good profile. So in my opinion, I feel like, and I always say this about impact players, bring players in who are going to come straight in, have an impact and make a difference, rather than be that player for the future all the time. I get that we need players for the future, but it seems like the past couple of transfer windows, it's like we're overloading players for the future. You need more experienced players in. And I said this under Ange as well. It's not just Thomas Frank. I always say this in transfer windows. It must be that really good mixture and balance. Thomas Frank often talks about the balance of the squad. So that's why I feel like this signing is a really good fit. But like I'll say again, it must continue.
Absolutely. And I completely agree. It's not a panic buy. This is what I don't understand why people are saying this. I think it's great that Spurs are actually prepared to spend a little bit more money to get a deal over the line. And the other thing is, Ange Postecoglou wanted him. Thomas Frank wanted him. that speaks volumes to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two very, very different managers, and Spurs fans have very different views on both of them. But the fact that two such contrasting managers are aligned on that one thing says a lot about the player. And the fact that Pochettino, who for me is my dream next Spurs manager, because I feel like it's business at the club, again, Poch is a huge fan. This seems to be, and as I said before, Simeone was very complimentary about him. And to me, it sounded like the only reason why Chelsea got rid of him was because they wanted to kind of add to their pet project, and they didn't view him as a player that fitted into their sort of model of all these players they're buying. He wasn't a blue coat player. But to me, the fact that so many managers speak highly about him says a lot. And that you don't get that if you don't work extremely hard. And that is why I think that's the bare minimum that we can expect from Conor Gallagher, is he's going to work incredibly hard. And the other thing as well is, and I'm normally quite critical of Johan Lange, but it was another situation where he sort of worked in the shadows. It looked like he was off to Villa, and then all of a sudden Spurs hijacked the deal.
Yeah.
So, as long as if we're doing deals like that, I'm very happy with that. I'm very happy to see Spurs acting, somewhat secretly away from all the speculation, although I know there's been many rumours about Gallagher in the past, but for us to actually go out and just do it, and for the announcement to actually be that the deal is getting done rather than, interest here, interest there, I think that's a real plus point for us.
Josh, let's come on to talk about a couple of other players. I mentioned there Alejo Veliz. It looks like Brazilian side Bahia are in an agreement with Tottenham to buy him. He's currently on loan at Rosario Central, but that is going to be terminated for the Brazilian club to then buy him. Let me ask you, do you think that we give these young players that we buy in, do you think that we give them enough of a chance? Do you think that the managers in the past, 5 seasons, let's go back 5 seasons perhaps, do you think that some of these managers do give the game time to a lot of our development team when some of them perhaps deserve a chance? Because when you look in the record that for the development side, we've won a number of trophies over the last couple of years. Should they have got more of a look in? And also what I wanted to mention, you mentioned Radu Dragusin there. His agent has been talking out again about, gladiators must go to Rome, etc., etc. He says he don't want to talk, but he talks a lot, that guy. But it looks like Roma are really pushing for this deal. Do you think that one will happen? Is that best for the player? And also what I wanted to ask is about Tell and Kinski. Tell at the moment, he's apparently unhappy about the lack of game time, but he's also unhappy about him not playing in his preferred position as a number 9. And Kinski, of course, is not, you would think, unless Vicario got injured, you would think that he wouldn't get any game time now because we're out of both domestic cups very early.
No, absolutely. Look, Kinski, I think we can afford to loan out for sure. I'm going to work backwards. Radu, look, he was very good. But clearly, he's just come back from a long-term injury. He's never going to start week in, week out over Romero and Van de Ven.
Yeah.
And of course, then we brought in Kevin Danso, who plays in that right centre-back position, which is where Radu's predominantly played for us. So I can see why Radu's thinking, I'm not going to get game time here. And let's be real, we've got the standout young player in the Bundesliga at the moment on loan, who's our centre-back, one of the most exciting young centre-backs in world football in Luka Vuskovic, who I think undoubtedly will be ready for Spurs next season because...
Well, sorry to interrupt. How does Spurs manage that situation with him?
For me, you block any approach at all. I know Bayern fan pages on social media have been talking about trying to, he was offered to us or whatever. Spurs aren't going to sell now.
But game time. I mean, how are they going to manage that?
Look, I think there'll be a situation where one of Van de Ven or Romero does leave in the summer. For me, Romero's the one I would let go. I think you then bring Vuskovic in as a starter. He's proven he can start week in, week out in the Bundesliga. There's no reason why he can't start week in, week out in the Premier League. He's clearly got the quality to do it. So for me, I think, if we're going to lose one of them, I'd rather lose Romero than Van der Ven for sure. And I think if you had Van der Ven and Vuskovic continues on the trajectory that he's on, that could be one hell of a centre-back pairing for years to come. But then that means spending money in all the right areas and building a squad that, is able to really not just, get back into the top four, but actually really compete at the highest level, compete on all fronts, as the club famously said. But let's also talk about, some of the other situations there. You mentioned Aleko Valise. I wonder if we'll never know really what happened there, and why we went for him. He obviously was quite prolific when he was playing out in Argentina at a young age. And I wonder if it was one of those signings where the club took the punt and hoped that the sort of sell-on clause the sell-on was going to be higher. And I think they probably had higher expectations. He didn't quite meet them. And look, you asked the question about youngsters going on loan and youngsters getting a chance. It's down to the player. You get loaned out and you don't perform. That's on you. That's not on the club. It's not on the club. Aleko Valise gets sent to Espanyol. He has the opportunity to perform in La Liga, to impress in training, where the pressure is not going to be as high as at Spurs, and he's failed to do that. Mikey Moore, on the other hand, is having a very, very good loan spell at Rangers and is being talked about, in really, really glowing terms. It's really simple as that. Harry Kane went on some, didn't work, kept working hard, went to Millwall, was superb. Then after he had a superb loan at Millwall, did he finally get his opportunity in the first team? And he had to prove himself too. So I think I don't buy this. I think if you train hard and you play well and you get sent on loan because you're not getting your game time and you perform on, then you're going to be considered. Youngman Shook is, he did well at Pompey. He's now going to Coventry, team that's top of the Championship. And he has an opportunity to be a key part of that team. They've stuttered as late. He's got the opportunity to be part of a team to get promoted to the Premier League. Great experience for him. You've also got, and I'm hearing a cheer in the background from my two Chelsea supporting flatmates. So I wonder if Chelsea's just equalised against Arsenal. No, they haven't. They pulled it back to 3-2. But Jamie Donnelly's another example. I know we talk about him. He's getting a loan at Oxford United. He's on loan at now. And he was, where was he? He was at Stoke and it didn't quite work out for him. He's now going to Oxford alongside Will Lancashire, which is phenomenal. Great to have two Spurs boys linking up there. They're in a bit of a dogfight there for relegation. That's going to be an experience that toughens you up. For me, it's down to the players themselves. Valise clearly has not worked out here in the same way that Brian Hill. There were some things that I really liked about Brian Hill, but he never performed consistently enough when he did get a chance. And then when he went on loan, he didn't quite do enough to make Spurs want to keep him. So very weird situation there. I think they're talking about Bahia in Brazil, right? That's the club that he's been talked about, which is owned by the same group as Man City, I believe. It's one of these things that you're going to get some bad eggs amongst the good. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but clearly just not working out for him. And you can't get every single transfer right, but I'd rather see us spend money wisely, because it was £13 million for a player that scored one goal in 8 appearances and was never going to be seen again. I think it was better than Clinton and G and better than George, Kevin and Kudu, but not by much. So the bar was pretty low there. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'm glad to see young players getting loans. We've spoken a lot about that over this window so far and how good Spurs are at recalling players who aren't working on loan. And clearly Espanyol are not impressed with what they've seen. And a move back to South America is the best option for him.
Josh, what do you think the future holds for Matisse Tell and Radu Dragusin?
Tell, interesting one. Look, Paris FC seem to keep pushing for him, but Tell's been starting games for Spurs. He's finally seemingly getting a consistent run in the team. Now, he may complain that he's not playing in his preferred position, but when he's on the pitch, he has an opportunity to score goals and make an impact. And you've also got Randall, Kolo Muani and Richarlison there. Richarlison has been pretty solid for goals. And also now you've got Dom Solanke back to full fitness. So it's going to be tough. And I want to see Tell show the right attitude and actually take his opportunity, because look at what Conor Gallagher said in his media. He said it doesn't matter where he gets played pretty much. He'll play in whatever system, wherever he's needed to be. And I would like to see more players with that same attitude. You should be lucky to be starting a Premier League game, consistently. And if they want to play you left wing, you put up. Because unless you prove that you are that much better than what is there in that position. That's how I view it. Now, that might seem harsh. That might not be best for player welfare. But, Dom Solanke hasn't been out the team because he's not played well. He's been out the team because he's been injured. And I'm glad that we've got that focal point. It feels almost like a new signing again because he's been out, for so long. But to have that focal point return, if I'm Matisse Tell, I'll be working even harder because he's got a key role to play in this team. And Thomas Frank clearly believes that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be starting on the left wing. But if it comes to a point where we are going to sign a winger and one of our attacking players is going to get frozen out, then a loan might be sensible for Tell, but I don't think Spurs are going to rush into that. Look, it's only the 14th of Jan today. And I think Spurs absolutely can bide their time with this, because a player of Tell's quality at his age, there will be clubs that want to take him on loan. Absolutely.
Do you think it's realistic? Because apparently he has the ambition to go to the World Cup with France in the summer. Is it realistic, Josh, that he goes out on loan? And, Spurs actually allow that? That's one thing. But the other thing, if he did get a loan, if he did get a loan, is it realistic that he would play every minute and do extremely well and score goals for him then to get that call up? Is that realistic?
It's on him. He's not been good enough to be selected for France. Now, it's all well and good. He does very well for the under-21s with Oliver. But that doesn't mean he's going to get into that team over the likes of who? Ousmane Dembele, Kylian Mbappe. Is he going to play over those two? Is he going to play over Mateta? Mateta's got a better goals record.
Yeah.
Is he going to play over, some of the other players that they've got? They've got Magnus Agliouche, for example, who will no doubt talk about being linked with Spurs. Ryan Cherky. Is he going to play over these players? I don't think so. So, okay, he might get into the France squad if he has this unbelievable loan spell. But if he's playing that well, Spurs will be keeping him. So, look, I'm not against players having a dream, and full credit to him for wanting to get himself in that France squad. And I hope he does. But it's on him to start putting the goals in. It's on him to start really putting those consistent performances together so that he is the first name on the team sheet. But at the moment, this is with a lot of players in this Tottenham squad. There's a lot of talk about, I want to do this, I want to do that, my ambition here, my ambition that. A lot of talk and little action. So let's see the players match that ambition with their performances on the pitch consistently. And that will benefit us as a club. It will benefit us as supporters, but also it will benefit their chances of going to the World Cup too.
Josh, just very quickly on Radu, do you think that it will be a loan? Do you think it will be a permanent deal? Do you think that Spurs will block any type of move?
Maybe my suspicion would be that it'll end up being a loan with an option or obligation. I think that would be a better way of doing it, because a lot of these clubs are strapped for cash in Italy. They don't have the income. But I believe that actually linked with, if I remember correctly, I'm just having to Google his name now to remember it. There you go. Yeah. Wesley França, who is a right back / right wing back at Roma. We've been linked with him previously. So whether there's a deal to be done there, I don't know.
Are you doing Danny Rose?
I've had to Google him. I couldn't remember. I knew it was Wesley something, but didn't want to butcher the name if it was something. But
This is another thing, Josh. This is another thing in this transfer window, in the summer transfer window. Spurs fans do not want to be Googling players.
no, for sure. And look, you know, Wesley França is a player that I haven't seen enough of. If it was an Inter player, I'd know a lot more, but I don't tend to watch Roma games. But you know, if he's performing well under Gasperini, that's a pretty good sign. Look, I'd be amazed if Roma was able to actually pay, you know, the fee up front now. And I'd like to see Spurs at least recoup what we spent on him. What was it, £21 million in total? It was about 25 mil euros. So I'd like to see us recoup that. We don't want to keep making losses on these players, but unfortunately, such is the dross that we've bought over the last few years that we're going to have to accept making a loss on quite a few of these players.
Josh, before we talk about the departure of Fabio Paratici, which was also officially announced today by Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, let's just talk about two other targets. Akliouche, who you mentioned there, Monaco star, and Fabrizio Romano last night on Spurs transfer target Yan Diomande. This is a name that has gone around for the last few weeks, certainly. Fabrizio said the message from his club, RB Leipzig, is that he will not leave the club in the January transfer window. They want to keep the player. The summer will be different. Manchester United, PSG, Bayern Munich are sending their people to follow him. Fabrizio Romano then went on to say that Tottenham already tried for him in this January transfer window, but it was not possible. He is an exciting winger, but at this moment, RB Leipzig want to keep him, and they think by keeping him, it will drive the price higher. They don't need the money right now, but in the summer, it could be a different story. And I must say as well that Yan Diomande, in an interview a couple of days ago, he said that his father always dreamed of him playing for Liverpool at Anfield. So it looks highly unlikely that Spurs could get this deal done, especially when you're thinking that the likes of PSG, Bayern Munich are interested as well. Akliouche, Monaco, I think he's a top talent, but the only thing that I would say, perhaps a little bit lightweight, perhaps need to work on his physicality if he was to come to the Premier League. What do you make of Yan Diomande and Akliouche?
But Yan Diomande is talk of the town, but look, I think he's made his feelings very clear, and Spurs, I don't think we're ever going to fork out £87 million for him in January, not for a player that young. And I think probably if we'd got that far, I'm not sure the player would have chosen Spurs. To be frank, and that's okay. That's always going to happen until we get to that point where we're at the very top, you know, and we're winning trophies regularly, competing for the Premier League title. That will be the case. Akliouche is an exciting player. Yes, I see your concerns about him being lightweight. He's obviously very good on the ball, very technical, decent finisher. You know, will definitely give us a different dimension. The only thing I would say in terms of that lightweight thing is you probably could have said the same thing about Ryan Cherky before he went to City, and he's proven that, you know, you can do it. So Akliouche at, you know, what would be no more than, you know, around 50 million, possibly even less, you know, isn't a bad deal. But I must say a name that's been popping up recently that does excite me a little bit more is Karim Adeyemi at Borussia Dortmund. Seems to have fallen out of favour a little bit. Obviously, you know, scored quite a lot of goals, has been involved in that Germany side. Rapid, quick, and is obviously quite young. He's only 23. So I think Adeyemi would be my standout so far. And I think the track record of buying players from Dortmund to the Premier League, as in Premier League clubs in general, tends to be pretty high compared with other clubs. So as far as Leipzig's concerned, I'm not bothered by signing a player from Leipzig. The last time we did that ended terribly for us. But, you know, Dortmund's a different beast. We know how good their scouting is. And Adeyemi is a player I've seen a lot more of. And so I can give a more rounded opinion of Adeyemi in terms of his shooting ability, what he brings on the ball, that lightning pace, good work ethic, good age, you know. So for me, again, that could be even cheaper than Akliouche and Diamande. So that's one that, that name keeps cropping up over the last sort of 2-3 days. So I think that's one probably to watch, because it seems like he may well be allowed to move this January. And my only slight concern with Karim Adeyemi is he was so hyped a couple of years ago, and he never seemed to quite kick on enough to get that move elsewhere. And normally in the Bundesliga, if there's an outstanding talent at a club like Dortmund, next season he's off to Bayern Munich, and that didn't happen. So maybe I'm overthinking that a little bit, but look, Adeyemi would be my standout. And I like Akliouche, but again, there are risk factors with all of these. And in an ideal world, we would have gone and got someone with Prem proven experience. But Adeyemi is a full Germany international, and that's a little bit of additional experience that I think we could do with, as opposed to someone like Akliouche, who, I don't know if he's even played for France yet. Talented player, but I think Adeyemi has a little bit more of the edge on him at the moment.
Josh, when we hear and see these reports from the likes of Fabrizio Romano, and you've mentioned £87 million, I've seen various reports actually stating anywhere from 50 to 87 million. When Spurs are in the conversation and Fabrizio then says that Spurs already tried for him in this January window, but it was not possible, does it give you indications that it might be different under ENIC and under this new structure?
I'm not really into it too much, to be honest. I think we clearly had a go, but I think it's more damning of what ENIC and Daniel Levy did to our football club, that these types of players have no interest in joining. And all I think about in those moments is look at where we were, under Poch getting to a Champions League final. Of course, we won the Europa League, but that kind of failure to kick on in those key moments. But look, it's good that we're sticking our head above the parapet on that one and giving it a go and trying to compete with the likes of Bayern and PSG and Liverpool and Man United. And, why not be in the conversation? You've got to be in it to win it. But to be honest, I didn't deep it too much. I just thought it speaks more about the players not really interested. Because I think if the money's on the table and it's clear this is how much you've got to spend and the player's really pushing for the move, often you can find a way to get it done. I think it's just a case of the player doesn't want to join the club. But Adeyemi, would be the one I'd go for. There's also been, talk of Christian Solis at Club Brugge, who again is a really exciting player. Club Brugge have a magnificent scouting team. And of course, that's where Igor Thiago came to Brentford from. I think Brentford have just agreed to sign another youngster, a young forward from Club Brugge. And so it's a club that Thomas Frank will be aware of and what they do. Solis would be much cheaper. And someone else has mentioned here, Brahim Diaz. Nothing's going to happen until the end of AFCON with that. But Brahim Diaz is another player that really excites me. Of course, Real Madrid. You can't go wrong there, really. But I think in terms of what we're really looking for, Adeyemi would be number one. I'm not opposed to Akliouche, but Solis seems just as exciting in many ways and much cheaper option. But it remains to be seen. There might be names, that we're not even talking about that come into the fold. Yep. Towards the end of the window. So as long as I think we're looking at the right profile of player. And the names that are being mentioned in the press, all the paper talk, these are good players. So I'd much rather that be the case than us looking at, players that we just roll our eyes and think, oh my God. There's that centre back at Sassuolo, right? I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name.
I think I took about 20 takes yesterday, Josh, doing that video.
Go on. Do you remember how to pronounce it?
No, let's not go there. Right. lastly,
that was another Google job as well, by the way.
yes. Right. Lastly, let's talk about the current sporting director at Tottenham, Fabio Paratici, because this rumour has been going around for a number of weeks. David Ornstein confirmed last week that Fabio Paratici would be leaving Spurs after the winter window. An official statement was released by Spurs on Wednesday. It said, "We can confirm that our sporting director Fabio Paratici will leave the club in Feb to join Fiorentina. Fabio will join the Serie A side following the conclusion of the winter window, bringing to an end 2 spells at Hotspur away, the first of which began in the summer of 2021. Now, Tottenham Hotspur CEO Vinay Venkatesham said, "We have agreed that Fabio will return to Italy following the conclusion of the January transfer window in line with his wish to move back home. We thank Fabio Paratici for his contribution to the club and we wish him well for the future. Our management structure is designed to be resilient to personnel changes and it will be business as usual moving forward." And then Fabio added, "I want to thank Vinay and the board of Tottenham Hotspur for accommodating my desire to return to Italy and join Fiorentina. I have loved my time at the club. However, this opportunity, together with the need to be based in my homeland, has led me to this decision. Spurs is a club that is very close to my heart. It has great people working for it who are passionate about the project as I am and want to bring sustained success. I have no doubt that they will achieve that and I will be watching closely from Italy." Josh, what do you make of this news? Because it was only a couple of months ago where, of course, after his ban, Fabio Paratici returned to the football club. They all sat down, they put out an official statement, they put out an official video and said how great it was that we were going to have 2 sporting directors. What do you think this means for the football club itself with Johan Langer? Because Johan Langer's position changed. They were named as joint sporting directors. Some people said this will never work. Some people said, oh, it's a great idea, different responsibilities with the 2 of them. What do you make of it?
Thomas Frank said that everyone was all aligned and clearly doesn't seem to be the case. Now, I like how cleverly that's been worded, the PR that's been done on that statement, failing to mention the fact that Paratici was done by FIFA and was banned. But look, I think overall he's been a net positive contribution to the club. He's brought in some very good players. He's brought in the likes of Romero, Kusevski, Bentancur, some really good players. And I think, one thing I've always liked is that he always engages with the fans when he comes into the stadium. He's always got his headphones and he's always seems to be on the phone to someone. Now, who knows what the real reasons for him wanting to go back to Italy. I know the food is better, perhaps a love interest. But look, wish him all the best.
Personal reasons, Josh, personal reasons.
Yeah, well, they always say. But look, he's been a good part of the team. Now, do I have faith in Johan Langer? That's the real question. I'm not entirely convinced. But look, Paratici, it's going to be an interesting challenge for him. Florence is a beautiful city, really, really great food, great people. And if you're Italian, the chance to go back, that weather, that food, that culture, the Gazzetta dello Sport and, your coffee in the morning, you can't really beat it. So I don't blame him at all. And I think, I would just say, I think we all probably thank him for his contributions to the club, because I think it's fair to say he has been a net positive in this role. And you're right, it was always going to be difficult to have 2 kind of co-sporting directors. I don't know of anywhere where that's worked.
But we are losing a real football man who has a lot of very good connections.
Absolutely. But these things happen and things come and go. But I think what does concern me a little bit is when we had Mitchell at the club. And we signed the likes of Toby and Jan and Eriksson and these players, and and then we ended up having some really, really bad years of recruitment. The bloke's name has escaped me now. You'll remember who we had, the guy under the back end of Poch. Can't remember his name now. We had that other guy that came in and the signings, Ndombele's and Lo Celso's, and the recruitment was just shocking. So, as far as I'm concerned, yes, let's just hope that Langer can do a good job. And let's hope that, if he doesn't, there'll be someone out there that we can bring in and snatch from another club who will do that better job. But, we are losing a real football man. We are losing a top sporting director. But something had to give, right? And if he's going for personal reasons, then that's on him and that's his choice. We can't really take that away from him.
Do you mean the guy who said, I hate the January transfer window?
I think so.
Hitchin,
that's it. Oh, he was god awful.
He tried to work with Fabio, of course. Yeah,
disastrously, and he was terrible. He was terrible, Hitchin. That's it. Yeah, comments going crazy for it. Yeah, he was rubbish, absolutely rubbish. So let's hope that Langer, with the reins to himself, can do a good job. And if he was the one behind Conor Gallagher, if he was the one behind Kudus, then fair play to him.
Josh, thank you so much for joining me. I know we've capped this at an hour because you want to go off and watch The Traitors. You enjoying the show? I think he's gone already. Right. So it is day 14 of the January transfer window. Spurs have got one deal over the line. Conor Gallagher has joined from Atletico Madrid. Sousa should be announced sometime in the very near future. It may even be on Thursday. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Have a good week. Keep smiling. And let's hope that those signings keep coming in during this January transfer window so Spurs can move up that Premier League table and, like the club said, compete on all fronts. We will see you soon. Come on, you Spurs.